YouTubers, I am JabeerIni and I'll show you today how to brew a beautiful beer at home. The beer we'll be brewing today is a double IPA and I'm really excited about this one because it's the first time I'm brewing a double IPA. So as for anything new, it's gonna be fun and it's gonna be exciting. The second reason is because the recipe is rather complex. When I was designing this one, I was thinking of adding little details here and there in order to make it really interesting. So we won't be bored in this one. And the third reason is because I'm organizing a homebrew competition for the summer. And the participants are members of Lakeybloke's beer chat group in Facebook. So even if the competition is not official and it's only intended to share some homebrews and have some fun, I foresee that the quality of the beers the participant will bring will be between high and very high. So I want mine to be at least at the level. By the way, cheers Roy and all of the members of that group. Really great people. So a double IPA, what does that mean? Well, as for most beer-related things, the answer is simple. It means that you'll use twice the amount of hops that you would normally use in a regular IPA, which is funny because IPAs already contain at least twice the amount of hops that you would normally use in a regular beer. Moreover, there are some IPA recipes out there, not double IPAs, regular IPAs, that call for 4 times the amount of hops that you normally find in a regular IPA. So we could conclude that the term double IPA is at least ambiguous. But it doesn't end there. You see, as I was commenting, when you're designing a beer recipe, you're thinking about the final product. And you want it to be balanced, especially if you're using a lot of hops for bittering. So in order to counterbalance the bitterness, the excessive bitterness, I would say, of the hops, you need to add more malt, which will increase the ABV volume. So the more malt you add, the more hops you need to add, the more alcohol you get, and then if you add more hops, then you need to add more malt, and so on. So at the end you end up with a really interesting recipe, which is the one we'll brew today. Last but not least, there in the back you can see our lovely Way to Amarillo. It's been fermenting in a very uniform way throughout the week. It's been 7 days now, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Now, without further ado, let's get brewing! And here we're in the kitchen, so first off, let's get a home brew. And here we have it. It's a bottle of that version 2.0 Summer Red IPA. This is the last bottle of that batch, so I guess I'll have to brew some more. But the next time I'll brew it, I'll brew a full batch of this. This time it's cold because it's getting really hot in here these days. And here we have it. Cheers! Beautiful. Let's go and see those ingredients. First, as usual, 5 liters of water in this lovely bottle, which we'll be using as a fermenter. 50 grams of Golden Promise, 50 grams of Crystal, and 100 grams of Cara Red. That's for the grains. Now the extracts. 2 jars of 370 grams of barley malt extract. Now the hops. We won't be using 1, nor 2, nor 3, nor 4, but 5 different types of hops. We'll be using Progress and Challenger for bittering, EK Goldings and Chinook for flavor and aroma, and finally Amarillo for aroma dry hopping. As usual, we'll be using 1/4 tablet of protafloc, and last but most important, our yeast. I would like to highlight that this yeast is the best one I have ever tried. It's been working in such a uniform and constant way with our Way to Amarillo that, well, I basically haven't had that experience with any other yeast before. So the first thing we're gonna do is get this water to 63 degrees. And in the meantime, let's measure our grains and hops. And here we have them. So let's start with the easy one, the grains. This is Golden Promise, Crystal, and Cara Red. Now let me walk you through the hops, because that's the hard part. And as you can see, I've labeled them because otherwise I would be lost. So this is 5 grams of Challenger, which will be added at the beginning of the boil. Then we have 5 grams of Progress 40 minutes before the end of the boil. 4 grams of Chinook 20 minutes before the end of the boil. 4 grams of EK Goldings 15 minutes before the end of the boil. 4 grams of Chinook 10 minutes before the end of the boil. 5 grams of EK Goldings 5 minutes before the end of the boil. And finally, a mixed portion of 3 grams and 3 grams of Chinook and EK Goldings 1 minute before the end of the boil. Okay, so our water is now at the desired temperature, and it's time to put our grains in. I just wanted to show you the grains going into the bag. Let's tie a wee knot here. And in they go. They'll be mashing there for 45 minutes. Let me get you closer so you can see how the water is now immediately changing color. Here you can see how it almost instantly turns the whole water into a dark amber color. The reason why I'm leaving these grains here 45 minutes instead of the usual 60 is because most of it are specialty grains and they don't need more than 30 minutes to release all their potential, so to speak. And the amount of Golden Promise, which is the malted barley we have there, is very little. So most of these starches will be already converted in 45 minutes. Also, taking into account that more than 90% of the fermentables are the liquid malt extract, we are on the safe side. So see you in a few. Hi there! While we wait for our mini mash to be ready, I would like to talk to you and walk you through what I'm willing to obtain with this recipe. So let's go from the easy subjects to the hard ones. Color. I love the deep red color of this IPA, but I would like this double IPA not to be as dark, which is why I used a smaller amount of Cara red and I also used crystal. I recently found out that crystal also contributes to a red or reddish color. Now that Cara red and crystal will also contribute to the body and flavor of the beer. Cara red will give it a nice head and crystal will give it a small touch of caramel. Now moving on to the flavor, which is the important part for me. I wanted the malt side of this beer to be really basic and simple, and then the hop side, obviously I want it to be very hoppy. Now here's a cool thing I want to achieve in terms of bitterness. I want to create 2 different layers of bitterness in order to make it more complex, which is why I've decided to add Challenger hops for the whole duration of the boil and Progress hops for only 40 minutes. Hopefully those Progress hops will give the wort almost the entire bittering capacity, but they will also leave a small portion of their flavor. Now regarding the hop flavor in my beer, I want it to be citrus, and I also want to find that classic taste you find in English IPAs, which is given by EK Goldings, and the citrus obviously by the Chinook hops. Finally, regarding aroma, I want it to be fruity and floral, and this is why I've chosen Amarillo. In fact, that's the only part of this recipe that you won't see in this video, because I will add those hops 7 days from now. So in brief, I want my beer to be slightly red, I want it to have a strong body, a high ABV, a punchy citrus flavor with that characteristic English touch, and finally very fruity and floral in the aroma. So far it's all looking really good in my head. Let's see how close we can get to that in reality. Cheers! Okay, so 45 minutes have passed. It's time to take these grains out. Turn this to maximum power and wait to get a running boil for all the hop additions. So I'll be back in a few. Cheers! And here's the running boil that we needed for our first hop addition. This is 5 grams of Challenger. And in they go. I'll be back in 20 minutes for the second addition of bittering hops and the first jar of liquid malt extract. Okay, 40 minutes before the end of the boil, time to add our second portion of bittering hops. This is 5 grams of Progress. Also, it is time to add our liquid malt extract. And as you can see there on the left, I already have the second jar submerged in hot water to ease things up. Let's give this a shake with a little hot wort, just a little because it's boiling. And there we have it, we got most of it out. So I'll be back in a few. Cheers! Okay, last 20 minutes of the boil. Time for our 4 grams of Chinook, and in they go. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Cheers! Last 15 minutes of the boil. Time to add 4 grams of EK Goldings and our second jar of liquid malt extract. I don't know if there is a particular difference in using liquid or dry malt extract, but this one is really and definitely easier to use. You see, it's all clean now. So see you in the last 10 minutes. Cheers! Okay, last 10 minutes of the boil. Time to add 4 grams of Chinook and a quarter of a tablet of protafloc, which is crushed. Not because I want it, but when I was cutting it in quarters, it just happened. In any case, I think it's better like this. It dissolves easier. And we're quickly approaching the end of this brewing process. See you in a few. Alright, last 5 minutes of the boil. Time to add 5 grams of EK Goldings. And in they go. Just one more hop addition and it'll be done. I'll be back in 4 minutes. Actually less than 4 minutes. Cheers. Okay, last minute of the boil. Time to add our 3 grams of EK Goldings and 3 grams of Chinook. The smell is incredible, it's really intense. I can clearly smell on one side the Chinook hops and on the other side the EK Goldings. I guess I'm really getting used to the aroma of both of them. To me they're really different, and hence I think this is why it's easy for me to identify them. And here we have the magic sound. Time to turn this off and cool it down. It's just a matter of stirring this constantly and vigorously, and in less than 5 minutes it'll go down from 100 degrees to 26, 25, that'll do the trick. So it's ready to be transferred to the fermenter. I'll be back. Cheers! And as usual, less than 5 minutes and we already got the temperature we needed. Now let's strain those hops. And here we go. One thing that I immediately noticed is that this wort has got a lot less foam than the one we brewed using dried malt extract. If anyone knows the reason why, please let me know. I'm just curious. So this is it. Let's transfer it to our fermenter. And there we have it. Now it's time to give it a shake. As usual. A couple of minutes doing this will do. After which we will take a gravity reading. I'll be back. Cheers. So there it is. And here's a pic for you to see it clearer. The exact reading is 1066. This will be a beer that for sure will be above 6.5% ABV. So it's time to put the airlock on. But before, of course, we're gonna pitch our yeast. And there it is, completely empty now. Now it's time to put our airlock. As you can see, I have spread it with a little starsen, and here it is. Our brewing is officially over, so I'll leave this here and see you tomorrow. Cheers! Hey, here we are. It's a sunny, shiny, beautiful day today in Scotland. Good morning. And as you can see, I placed our double IPA, soon to be great beer, next to her sister, the way to Amarillo. It's already bubbling in a very uniform and stable way, just like it was the case with Way to Amarillo last week. So as I said, I think this will be my standard yeast from now on, and I highly recommend you to use it. Let's talk about dry hopping. I don't know for how long the fermentation will specifically last, but I know that it will last between 10 to 14 days. So I will add those dry hops between day 7 and 9, depending on how fermentation goes, so that they can have at least 5 days there in the wort. Why didn't I add those dry hops since day 1, just like I did with the Summer Red IPA and the Chinook Maris Otter Smash? Well, I didn't know, but it's because the fermentation, the activity of the yeast, apparently interferes or reacts with the hops, and you don't get their full and entire aroma. Remember, hops are a flower, and yeast, well, it's a living organism. So I don't really know if they eat the hops or process them in a way. The thing is that they change their flavor, and you end up with some grassy tones, which, by the way, I have found very pleasant. But now I want to know what truly and purely Amarillo tastes like. This wit tip was given to me by a home brewer. He's got his own YouTube channel, and it's called Jake's Craft Brewing, and I would totally recommend you to visit it. He's got some great recipes there. Cheers, Jake, and thank you for your useful comments. Much appreciated. This coffee is great. If you add some coconut oil to your coffee, you get a bulletproof morning coffee. For next week, we have our second smash. That stands for single malt and single hop. You know, keep the malt and the hop secret, but here's a cool thing I want to share with you. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I normally brew on Friday nights. And something I've been doing since a couple of weeks now is that I take some pre-brewing and brewing pics and upload them to my Instagram. So if you want to know the beer I'll be brewing in the episode that will be published next Wednesday, check out my Instagram on Friday night and you'll get a pretty clear idea. And it's 5 days in advance. That's a huge advantage, isn't it? So this is it for this week. I'm gonna enjoy that sunny day with my friends and family. It's been a pleasure doing this video. I hope you had some fun just as much as I did. If you like what you see, like, and don't forget to subscribe. And as usual, thanks for watching. Cheers on beers!